Hello dear traders, it's Petko Aleksandrov speaking from EA Forex Academy, and today I will make a video for a recent update that we have in EA Studio about the out of sample monitor, which is available if I click on any of the strategies that I have in my collection. You can see it right over here next to the report. It says OOS monitor and it stands for out of sample monitor. Okay, but before explaining all of that, I think I need to explain what means actually out of sample for the traders who didn't use it so far. So if I go to the generator and I want to generate strategies, let's say euro dollar on H1, I will just take this randomly, and then strategy properties. As you know, here you can enter the lot size, the minimum and the maximum take profit and stop loss, and then in generator settings we have out of sample. So in sample, this is statistical measure for all the data that we have in our statistics. All right, so when it is in sample, it means it will use all the data we have in EA Studio. In this case, on H1, these are 27,409 bars. So if I keep it in sample, this means that the generator will generate strategies based on all of that data. Okay, but here the risk is that we will have over optimized strategies, which means that the generated strategies will show such an equity line exactly for this period of time that I have been using for the generation, and after that, when I place them trading on the MetaTrader, there is a chance that they will start losing. Okay, so one of the options is the method to place them on demo account. So we will test the strategies on unknown data, okay, and we will see which one of those will continue profiting and which one will start losing. Now the second option is to use the out of sample. If I click on the menu, you will see 10%, 20%, 30, 40, 50%. So let's go with the middle one of 30%. Now if I run the generator with 30% out of sample, this means it will generate strategies by eliminating 30% of the historical data that I have for euro dollar on H1. So if I have 27,409 bars times 0.3, it will eliminate 8,222 bars. Okay, and it will generate strategies only on the rest historical data, so the data before the last 8,222 bars, and after that it will show us the result that we are having at the last 8,222 bars, or the last 30%. So let me just demonstrate it to you. I will leave it just this way, and I will remove the acceptance criteria just to demonstrate you what I mean. Okay, so you see immediately I have many strategies generated, and they are being generated only on the first 70% of the historical data. But you see what happens exactly after that. I will stop it because this is a very good example. The strategy was generated over the 70% of the historical data, and with the last 30% actually the strategy started to lose. So this is exactly the over optimization. The generator finds strategies that are profiting for the tested period, and then when it is simulating real trading, the strategy loses. Okay, and here I have selected search best by net balance, so the generator finds strategies with the best net balance, and at this point exactly at the 70%, it starts simulating real trading. So here is shown the result on unknown data, meaning that the generator eliminates this 30% while generating the strategies. Okay, and you see here this strategy starts to lose, which means that the out of sample shows the strategy was over optimized. So let me run one more time the generator, and it will generate hundreds of strategies immediately because I have removed the acceptance criteria, but just because I wanted to show you exactly what I mean. Now you see with this strategy that is shown at the moment, actually after that the strategy shows a little bit of a negative, but recently positive result. And now you see even a little bit better strategy which continues to make some profit during this last 30% of the time. Okay, let me stop now the generator. So one more time to make it clear, this white period we call it in sample and the green one is out of sample. So here if we select in sample, this means it will use the whole period, the whole historical data we have. If we use 30% or any of the other choices, the green one is out of sample, the white one is in sample. Now when we use out of sample, we want to see the strategies that are actually profiting in the out of sample period. And this is another update now in EA Studio. If I use the common acceptance criteria, you can see that there is a complete backtest now in the acceptance criteria. There is in sample, which says training part, and out of sample, which says trading part. So one more time, the white part from the balance chart was in sample where the generator was working. So it's a training. This is where the generator builds the strategy. And then out of the sample was the green period or the last 30% with the demonstration I did, which is the trading part. So it simulated real trading on the unknown data, the data that was not used while generating. Now you see here by default comes minimum net profit and minimum net profit. So if I select, for example, to have minimum net profit 1, and then I select to have minimum net profit 1 as well in the out of sample, this will mean that in the currency my trading account is, I will have at least $1 if it is in dollars or one of a currency when I run the generator, and in generator settings I use the common acceptance criteria. So it will generate the strategies that will have at least $1 of profit here and then $1 of profit in the out of sample. So let's run now the generator and you will see it shows me strategies that are having no losses in the green zone, in the out of sample. It could be just $1, but it's still a dollar profit, so it's still a profitable strategy on the green period. And this is what exactly I wanted to show you, that with the acceptance criteria, you can choose what acceptance criteria to have in the in sample part and in the out of sample part. Going back to the generator, you will see much better strategies over there. And if I improve that, so let me go back one more time to the acceptance criteria and I will actually delete all of these strategies. So going to the generator, generator settings, common acceptance criteria. So let's say here I will go up to 100. All right, I want at least 100 of a profit on my out of sample period and an in sample period. And I'm having minimum count of trades 100 and minimum backtest quality 10. Alright, so going back to the generator, I will press start and you will see now the strategies are having actually minimum 100 in the in sample part and then minimum of 100 in the out of sample part. And if I click on the collection, you will see that this is true for all strategies generated. All right, so here, for example, you see this strategy made some profit in the beginning, then it went a little bit on a loss, but still at this point, at the 70% of the historical data, it is above 100 of a profit. And then during the out of sample period, again, it has much more than 100 of a profit. So this was a great update in EA Studio, that we have now the option to decide what acceptance criteria to have in the complete backtest, in the in-sample part and the out-of-sample part. Now, if I click on any of the strategies, for example, I will go to the first one, you will see that with the balance chart in the editor, I don't see the green zone. This is because the editor uses all the data that we have for this asset. Okay, but here comes the update out of sample monitor. If I click on it, you will see here that I have a lot of information for the in-sample part, for the out-of-sample part, and for the complete backtest. As well, you will see that it shows the net profit for each one, the count of bars for each one, and then the start date and the end date. So you can see the in-sample was from 25th of August 2014 till 25th of September 2017, and out of sample was from 25th of September 2017 till today, okay, which is 8,223 bars, just as I have calculated it with the calculator. So here we see in details how many bars we are using, no need to use the calculator, and exactly from which date until which date, and in the end we have the complete backtest. Now what you notice is that we have in green the net profit for the in sample, for out of sample, the count of trades, and the backtest quality in complete backtest. This is because these are the criteria that we have in the acceptance criteria. Okay, you see I have the minimum net profit for in sample and out of sample, and then I have the minimum backtest quality and minimum count of trades. So if you use some other options here in the criteria, you will see them in the out of sample monitor, and they will be either in green or they will be in red if they were not validated. So for example, if I change out of sample to 20%, you see still all are validated. Let me go to 10%. Here you see that out of the sample was not validated because the net profit is just $19, and in the acceptance criteria I have selected to be minimum 100. Okay, so one more time, with 10% of out of sample it is just 19.98, which means it's not validated. If I put it back to 30%, you will see that it's just validated and it shows in green. Alright, so here you can see very detailed statistic about each period, about in the sample period, about out of the sample period, and about the complete backtest. So the complete backtest is in the sample plus out of the sample. Alright, so this is the improvement that we have with the out of sample. It is really great because it gives a lot of opportunities to us to filter the strategies while they are being generated, and we can predefine acceptance criteria for the in sample part, for the out of sample part, and for the complete backtest. Now at the end of this video I can give you some tips on how to set up the generator in order to use the optimizer with out of sample in the same time. So let me remove this collection now and I will switch to reactor. Alright, so I will leave it the very same thing here, euro dollar H1, strategy properties, I will leave it between 10 and 100 pips. And then in the generator settings, I will remove the acceptance criteria and I will remove out of sample. I will leave it to in sample. So it will generate me maximum number of strategies without any limitation. And then I would like to use the optimization. Okay, and in optimization you can see that I have the option now search best by net balance, return to rundown, system quality number, and so on, and I can use here R squared, and I will use here the out of sample of 30%. This means that the generator will generate me strategies and they will be optimized only for the 70% of the time of the tested period, and then for the rest 30% it will show me the result of these strategies. And if I use common acceptance criteria, I will leave it here the way it is, minimum net profit 100, minimum net profit 100 for in sample and out of sample. And as well here I can add R squared again if I'm using this criteria. For example, here I will leave it 65. Okay, I will use the very same thing on the out of sample, and I will leave it here as well 65. And then for the complete backtest I want to have R squared minimum of 85. Okay, so this means that for the complete backtest I will have 85. For in sample I want to have at least 65, and out of sample I want to have at least 65. So I will run now the reactor. Probably it will take me some longer time. You can see there are already generated strategies, but they don't pass the optimizer because it uses the acceptance criteria for minimum net profit and in the same time for R squared, 65 for in sample and out of sample, and 85 for the complete backtest. And you can see there is already one strategy that passed. I will click on it and you will see what a great strategy I have with a complete R squared of 87.51. And if I click on it and if I go to out of sample monitor, you can see what I have here. In green I have the net profit, which in this case is 1471.49, and then I have R squared of 77.88. minimum here was 65. Then with out of sample, so this is the trading, this is the simulation. Okay, this is where the optimizer didn't work. Okay, it optimized the strategy only for this period and not for this one. And the net profit here is 1088.05, and here is 75, and R squared is 75.74. And here I have R squared of 87.51, which is great for me. I have huge count of trades and I have backtest quality of 99.99%. So this is one of the ways that we found recently to be working really great, and you can test it out and see how useful this update in EA Studio is. And it will take you some longer time to generate strategies, but at the end of the day we have very nice strategies with very nice balance line, and we are protected from the over optimization because the optimizer worked only for 70% of the time, and for the rest 30% it was not optimizing the strategy. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and I always wish you safe trading. Cheers.